Yeah.
So today we're going to talk about what it is when the horse is forward. Because a lot of times people have a misconception of what forward is, that they think of forward as the horse racing around the arena, and that horse, wow, really has impulsion. But forward is more in the horse's mind, that forward is the horse wanting to join with you. That when the horse gets crazy and excited in the idea of forward that most people have, you can't control that.
Well, what most people get is that the horse is moving out of fear.
Yeah.
They're
Mm-hmm.
using some aspect of and it is a primitive form of control. I mean, there's no doubt that it does control horses. If you have a herd of wild Mustangs you want to direct, you're not going to be able to go over and pet them on the head and get them to go somewhere. You're going to direct them um, by using their natural mechanism to move, all right, through fear.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an interesting issue.
Well, I think
Uh,
what I mean by you can't control it is you can send it in a general direction, but you can't control the feet.
well, it's a little
That's
bit
what you
like
need to get high level work.
right. Well, it's a little bit like a job. If I said to you, it's a little tacky, maybe, and politically not quite correct, but we could say we have low class, middle class, and upper class people, and there's an appropriate mission. And it's like, well, we can train the horse on the low. If you come into work, the boss can brutalize you into performing. All right. Just like you can work with a horse that way, and it's based on, oh my God, I'm going to lose my job and the fear. And then there's another way that you can come into work where you're part of a team and you can't wait to get there and see what is going to happen through the course of the day. And that the desire on the part of the teammate is to create harmony and like I want to say poetically a joyous music
Mm-hmm.
in the relationship. And I mean, if you're working in a world that's like that, it's a lot more pleasant. And the horse is not complicated, but the horse requires I mean, what's necessary to have good performance in the horse? And one is to make the horse do things. And the answer is yeah. Well, that we could say that's what it's all about, is getting the horse to do things. And that's fine. All right, if we're getting the horse to do things, but do we want the horse to do things from fear?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, yeah, we can do that. That's the baseline. That's the bottom. It's like, but is that really the best way?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer to it, at least by the horse's version of it, is fear's not the best way. It's interesting because it's funny. We talk about upper level horses, and there's no high level training without equality.
Yeah.
And that's not a view that people take. People take the view, I'm going to make the horse do things. And then the question is, how do you make the horse do things? And the answer is fear.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah, certainly I can see how relationships, the dynamic of fear can manipulate, but I can also see the difference in the dynamics of joy. And it's not that there isn't there has to be a baseline respect. In other words, when we say fear, fear creates a gap and creates a division. Friendship creates a harmony.
Right.
There's
And
no such thing as up.
when do you think your horse is going to give you more? Fear
Right,
or harmony?
right.
Harmony.
Yeah. And it's kind of when I say to you, it in my estimation, and I think in yours as well, it's a no-brainer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. But
Well, and the horses too.
right, exactly.
Because they're herd animals. They want harmony.
Right. And you know, I mean, it is like, well, now the question is, how do you get harmony, or what is harmony?
Hmm.
You know, and it's interesting because as babies, we kind of get this with our mothers.
Hmm.
All right. And we get it on a nonverbal level. We get it on a, you know, mama makes noise, I make noise. When I make the right noises, mama makes different kinds of noises. You
Hmm.
know, and it's like, well, when we approach the horse, and when I say attempt to control, but let's not talk about attempt to control, we're just being with the horse. There's a certain relationship. And if the horse doesn't know what we're going to do and we don't know what the horse is going to do, we're both afraid.
Hmm.
So, what we have to kind of figure out is what's our natural range of predictability. And since we're the ones who want to do this thing we call riding, right, the way that we have to approach it is we have to go to the horse first. And so when you think about that, everybody says, oh, yeah, like when I learned to ride, and I think it was the same for you when we both, you know, oh, I've never ridden before. Let me begin the ride. The first thing was, and make him do that. Don't let him do
Yeah.
that. You know, kick him, hit him, make him do that. And it's like one of the things that's taken me, God, a significant portion of my career to get over is that attitude and that mindset. But
Hmm.
here's the problem. You don't feel good when you're doing that bully kind of thing, but you think, well, it has to be this way. And
Right.
then you get into a relationship with a horse where the horse has kind of defused your bullying by doing something we call obedience.
Hmm.
You know, but the reality of the thing is that how in other words, if I want to go out with you, how do I go out with you? Do I start by telling you, I'm going out with you, Megan? We're going out. Get over it. You know, I'm going to make you go to that dinner tonight. So we have dinner you know, I mean, it is like, well, yeah, I mean, what would your reaction be? You know, it's like,
I'm not
yeah,
going.
yeah, right. And it wouldn't matter if it was a delightful dinner. It
Hmm.
might be the best dinner you've ever had. But when you're approached with that attitude, so what's the attitude that you got to approach the horse with? You want to get forwardness. Well, here's the simplistic version. Get a bucket of oats or some treats the horse likes. Well, now the horse will come over to you.
Hmm.
Okay, but then that's not so much so. So what you have to do is your presence has to be nice. What does it feel like when it's nice? You know, so one of the ways to start is a massage with the horse. And I say massage, I mean, you think, well, you have to do this hard manipulation. No, just petting. So you try to, you know, I mean, the forwardness comes out of a to and from kind of thing.
Hmm.
What you need is a focal point. So by having well, we're already jumping to a more advanced stage by using like the halter that we use. The halter, I want to say halter rope, but everybody thinks about it being under the jowls of the horse. And as you know, the halter rope we use is on the point of the nose.
Hmm.
There's a cliche, I'm going to lead you around by your nose.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you look at what we do with bulls, for example, uh, they put a ring in the nose. Why? They lead it around by its nose. How do we control horses? We lead them around by their nose. Well,
Hmm.
see, there's a problem. When you're on the ground, you can be in a lot of different places, but when you're on the horse, you're kind of stuck, you know.
Right.
So you need to have forwardness, which means when you when you give the horse the space, okay, you release the horse fills the space.
Hmm.
So I think you remember this when we were somewhere with the lessons with you, where I was saying that what forward is more like dating.
Hmm.
In other words, like if when if I'm going to um, make a pass at you, I'm going to take my hand and I'm going to hold your hand.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it's like, well, okay, that's initially, in essence, aggression. All right. But what you do, in essence, with the horse would be the equivalent of extend my hand to you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And I'm not making a pass in my head necessarily, but the extension of my hand makes you want to put your hand in mine.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's
One of
forward.
my favorite stories of Fancy, my pony, was she was having this little boy meet her for the first time. And I was like, do you know how to meet a horse? He said, yeah, I do. And he put his hand out and he just kept holding his hand there for like a really long time. And then Fancy finally just shoved her nose into his hand, like, just pet me already. And that's because she has a general sense of friendliness towards the horse.
Right.
That one of the things I was thinking in your long lecture that you just gave is about resistance and how the natural, like, say you did be like, okay, we do have to go to dinner or whatever. It's like
Right.
my natural instinct is no, I don't want to go.
Right.
It's that way in every type of mammal. It's that way in humans, it's that way in horses, it's that way in dogs. Like if I'm leading my dogs into the backyard and they don't want to go in the backyard and I stand in front of them and I yank them into the backyard, then it's harder to get them in the backyard. Versus if I go and I stand with them and I talk to them nicely and then I encourage them to go into the backyard, that
Yeah.
they feel that resistance too, even though they're dogs. And horses feel that way even more because they're threatened by us.
Yes. And when you look at resistance, when I say to you, what's the resistance of the horse? And you'll say, there'll be heaviness in the line.
Mm-hmm.
Like if the horse is resisting and I try to pull the horse forward, horse isn't coming forward. What
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to feel is heaviness there. Or when I want to go to the left and the horse decides it wants to go to the right, I feel a heaviness.
Mm-hmm.
And the horse throws its weight and engages in that way. And
And
it's
then
like,
you argue over going to the left,
right,
and then the horse
right,
finally rolls their eyes and says, "Oh God, I'll go to the left."
right. Well,
It's
but what
like, what did
happens
the
is,
horse learn?
right. And what the horse learns is his attention span it became not worth the fight from the
Mm-hmm.
horse's point of view. You
Yeah.
lost the horse's attention span.
Mm-hmm.
And the point of a language, any language, is attention span.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how clever I am, if you're not paying attention, you're not going to hear me.
Mm-hmm.
So the horse's attention span it comes and it goes.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's why you use vibration. So like when you touch and you touch the horse and you're asking the horse, we'll say, to bend to the left, or you're doing a left flexion. All right. The first reaction is the point is bending the head to the left. All right. And it's like, no, the point isn't bending the head to the left. The point is the horse bending the head to the left.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So what happens when you feel that resistance? A la Boucher, you vibrate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now we're physical here. We're talking about it physically. How do we do it in the mental world? Because the problem in the control of the horse is not the physical resistance, it's the mental resistance.
Mm-hmm. Right. That
Okay. And
then
so,
oftentimes results in a physical resistance.
well, but there is no physical resistance that isn't have a mental or
Right.
emotional origin.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So the first thing is to eliminate that. What does that mean? It means being friendly.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
like when I've had in my career, I've had on a number of occasions what I would call famous resisting horses that nobody could touch and that would kill you as soon as look at you. All right. Trained by or handled by ignorant humans to where the horses becomes unmanageable. The first step in getting those horses to be forward, meaning to come to you, to want to come to you,
Mm-hmm.
is not going in the stall and catching them.
Right.
It's hanging out in the stall, not treats, but hanging out. Because after a while, the horse says, oh my God, there's two beings here. We're
Mhm.
not a herd. I better join the herd. That
Mm.
means this weird ass guy that's sitting in the corner of the stall is the only herd that I can join. So he's got that in his psyche kind of poking him in the butt.
Yeah, that's a better way to put that than the way that I
Well,
usually think about just hanging out in the stall. I usually think of it as like the horses eventually become curious because they're naturally curious,
yes,
which is part of it too. But I like that idea of them thinking like, oh, I better join with this other being because they're part of my herd. And you
right,
see that too with horses that get left alone and stuff like that. Like Pups, my dad's horse, he didn't have any horses with him for a
right,
long time when we bought him, and he became friends with the cat. That was the only thing he could find for his herd.
right,
Instinct was to
right,
join with them.
right. And that's why in the old literature, well, the first thing you do with a horse when you train it is put it in a stall by itself.
Mhm,
Because if you're not going to use fear to control the horse, you have to get the horse's mind. How do you know when you have it? Well, coming to you is one thing,
mhm,
okay? But what tells you you have it is when the horse is curious.
mhm,
Curiosity is an indication that the horse isn't being shy and fearful.
mhm.
So by going in the stall and just kind of hanging out and being with the horse, instead of grabbing the horse, making the horse do this and that, once the horse accepts or we come to an agreement between the horse and I of equality,
Mhm.
okay, in other words, that we have a spatial relationship. That's what forwardness is. Forwardness is curiosity. And then curiosity eventually becomes habit.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, so that the horse uses movement, and it's the way the horse instinctively and naturally wants to do it. But this is a different kind of forward,
Mhm.
you
Right.
know. And that's the thing that when I think about this as an old guy who's been doing this a long time, and what I want is to pass on my experience, all right, to other people without them having to go and through every blow by blow that I had to figure it out.
Hey,
You
that's my goal too.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, funny, we should do a podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, damn. But, and then it's like, well, how do you do that? And it's like, it's crossing that barrier between fear, all right, and using fear as a manipulative tool and using curiosity. But you know what? Curiosity and the horse's natural desire to want to move, you know. And if the horse is by itself, one might say, or not that it can't be out in a herd, but when it's by itself, you get the maximum amount of curiosity because you're the only contact it has. So,
Mhm.
especially in the early work, until you get the foundation set, that's the way you do it. And forwardness is the horse learning to trust his curiosity because he knows you won't hurt him,
Mhm. Yeah.
and then it's like when you first learn to dance to varying degrees, it's not a lot of fun.
Mhm.
But when you've been doing it a while and you've gone through the basic groundwork to it, it's the same actually with a musical instrument in a weird way. If I
Mhm.
said to you, learn to play, you do cello, for example, or I do recorder, learn to play, or it's like in the beginning you do all these things and it just makes lousy noise.
Mhm.
All right, when is it good? Get good. When you learn to harmonize with the instrument,
Right. Mhm.
and you have to practice until you learn to harmonize with the instrument. And
Mhm.
that's what has to happen with the horse. And you have to learn to do it. I mean, it's like, well, what do we do then as instructors? We keep people from killing themselves while they're trying to figure out how to harmonize.
Well, I think we do more than that.
Well, a little bit more, maybe a little more. It depends on whether it's the deluxe lesson or the economy lesson, you know. But I mean, but that's one of our primary functions.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
try to keep people from near-death experiences,
yep,
you
yeah.
know.
That is the
And,
number one priority.
yeah. And actually from the horse's point of view, if we're good trainers, we help the horse totally forget about any kind of near death experience occur with the human
Hmm.
because the horse is safe when they're with us,
Hmm. Yeah.
and that's mutual. So we
Mhm.
have to feel safe for the horse.
Well, I just keep thinking about Grayson when we're talking about this because he used to be so afraid of
Yeah,
being just of people, and now he comes right up to me when I go out to the paddock,
right,
and people tell me, "Oh, he's really spooky in the barn and I can't handle him." And then I go in the barn and he's totally fine. And they're
right,
like, "Oh, I swear he was really spooky before you got here."
right,
And that's because he knows when I'm around that everything's safe.
right,
Yeah, because I'm
right,
part of his herd, and he
right.
is forward. He comes up to me the second I go out to see him.
Well, this is one of the things I get a little weird with the showing with this.
Mhm.
Because the joy that you get from that kind of relationship with the horse, it's like, why would you want to show off to somebody and ruin it? I
Right.
mean, the most important thing is that, it's not how well you did it, it's the attitude with which you did it. When,
Mhm.
if you got a dressage test and you win, great. But if the horse's attitude is like, we got to get him just in the right mindset, now we get him in the ring. Oh, he's good. Oh, now he can be an idiot again.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
it's like, it's like the whole point was to get him to show a thing. And
Mhm.
it's like, isn't the whole point to get him not to kill you and to be a nice guy and to enjoy and have fun
Yeah.
with you? And it's like, what's fun? I mean, Nazi drilling doesn't strike me as being fun. It's certainly something the horse can accept, but fun,
Yeah.
you know? And
Well, thankfully, like we were talking about the other day, there's different ways to show off the horses. Because I
yeah,
was actually doing a barn tour last night and they were asking me about competing. And I said, well, you can compete with this kind of work. And honestly, if you do want to compete at a high level, this is the way to go. But would you rather go to a show and ride some rigid pattern, making your horse do something, or would you rather ride your horse across the pasture in a dress and show your horse off that way? Showing how much fun you have with your buddy.
yeah. And that's really, in my mind anyway, that's really more about that. But then I look at the whole general thing that both you and I and the little enclave of beings that collect around us, both horse and human, and we look at the idiosyncrasies and the peculiarities of that, and that's one of the main things is that this is very the whole thing is to start with harmony, and then if you want to do the doing and you want to do stuff, okay, do all the stuff you want to do. But don't do all the doing and then deal with the being as an afterthought.
Right. Yeah.
Because from the horse's point of view, the horse don't give a damn about doing. Horse only cares about being.
Hmm.
When it cares about being and it does the doing, it's beautiful.
Hmm.
But when it doesn't care about the doing, the horse doesn't is never does well. And
Yeah.
then there's lots of resistances and the score's low if it's dressage,
Hmm.
and the poor horse is not dependable and not reliable. Well, if the horse isn't dependable and reliable, even though you might not be able to come up with the answer, who's not dependable and reliable? Must be you.
Hmm.
It must be you have to take responsibility for whether the relationship is a happy one or a worried one. I mean, and if it's a worried one, then you have to earn the horse's trust. You have to learn to be a friend.
Hmm.
And I think, like, when I was working in Portugal, one of the things with both in Portugal and France is that they gave treats to the horse at the end of the training session. That was not an uncommon thing to do. And I get why they do it. I mean, it makes sense. But my experience is it's not a good religion.
Yeah, the way I feel about treats is I usually give them to my horses at the end if I happen to bring them in and put them in the cross ties. But a
Yeah, a
lot
lot of
of
times.
times I'll just pull the saddle and I'll take them back out. And then it's
Yeah,
like sometimes randomly I just want to go say hi and I'll bring a treat. And sometimes randomly I'll just go say hi. That I'm
exactly.
all over the place, that it's never a guarantee. And it's not the reason that they're with me.
No, and one of the problems that it's a very common thing when you have people that believe in no treats, and they're around people that absolutely believe in treats as a religion. Oh, he's going to get mouthy, he's going to bite you, he's going to, in all the times that I've done treats and, in the way that I do it, this occasional way, which you aptly described, I've never had a problem with the horse getting nippy or bitey or anything like that.
Me either. Every time I've had a horse that's overly nippy, it's because they get too many treats.
Yeah. There's also a thing that we do about the whip, and I hate almost saying it on a cast, but it was something I was told was absolutely true. You can't use a whip around a horse's head; they'll get whip shy.
Hmm.
And it's like I've never found that to be true, unless I'm a idiot with my whip.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, well, when I say an idiot with whip, that's certainly, to say the least, judgmental. But I
Hmm.
mean, the way that most people use the whip or consider the whip, it's a weapon that results in the horse running away with fear.
Hmm.
Whereas in the way we use it, as well, it's more like a hand.
Right.
And the hand can be used to stimulate the horse generally, or to specifically stimulate areas or muscle groups to aid in producing an effect, or to aid in the horse's understanding of the aids. And it's used more like a hand.
Hmm.
It's more like an extension of the arms. I'm saying this, I apologize. I'm not intending to lecture you because I know
No,
you.
it's okay. Well, I
Yeah,
was just gonna say, yeah, none of the horses on our property are head shy, and some of them are whip shy for about a week.
yeah, yeah, that's about,
They're the new horses.
yeah, those are the one, we'll get one somewhere along the line where it'll take more like 6 or 8 weeks to get them to settle to the whip. And a little bit that maybe is still a little bit, can be,
Well,
the
she's just scared
comparative.
of people in general a little bit still.
Yeah, yeah. But in general, the horse is has improved so much because it's beginning to know that we're probably not going to eat it.
Hmm.
And we're not going to use fear as a way of it, from that particular horse and a certain members of the horse population. The fear model does not work.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, Maybe is likely a Mustang that was sold in a sale not too far from us, bought by a lady who brought her to a barn and couldn't touch her and realized she couldn't touch her. And so she abandoned her at the barn, and then our barn vet took her. So she didn't have a halter on her or anything till she was about 7 or 8 years old. And all her dealings with people before that were based on fear. So she's a hard case.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
She
it's
taught
not.
us a lot.
Yeah, no. But the reason it's a hard case is, um, just on the psychological levels. The horse is smart, and the horse is smarter than the human.
Oh yeah, she is very smart.
And this horse it's an interesting thing. The problem with this horse mechanically is also an underlying issue. All
Hmm.
right. But fundamentally, this horse's mind is the kind of mind that makes a great upper level horse. I'm
Hmm.
not saying that this horse will be a great upper level horse. That's really up to the horse.
Hmm.
But it's the mind that's sensitive and curious and always looking at things.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
and when the fear is out of that, that's great. When
Hmm.
there's fear, it's like, oh my God, the horse thinks it's suddenly going to die.
Yeah.
It's like, ah,
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm rambling. Am I not
It's
rambling?
okay. It's okay. We're getting close to the end of
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
So
So we survived another one. God, this one was better than the last one we did. God.
I agree.
Yeah, we're
And it's
better.
been a tough couple weeks, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, so the next one will be the best podcast we've ever done.
Yep.
You know what it's going to be about? We don't either.
Exactly. But we'll think about
We'll
it.
think about it this week, maybe. You
All
know.
right.
Okay, so I guess I'll see you in the real world in a little bit.
Yep, we'll see you soon.
Okay.
Bye.